This podcast is brought to you by Hoare Chartered Accountants. Hoare Chartered Accountants are based in Galway City and are a leading provider of audit, accountancy and taxation services. For more information, visit hoarecharteredaccountants.ie. You're welcome along to the Maroon and White pod. So I am joined by Seán Ó Domhnaill, and we're going to look back on Moycullen's victory over Leitrim Gaels in the Connacht semi-final. Unfortunately, Carna Cashel's journey in the Connacht Championship came to an end against Aughvas from Leitrim at the weekend. So that will see Aughvas from Leitrim advance into the Connacht final, and Carna Cashel journeys came to an end. But Moycullen now will face St. Bridget's on Sunday week in Dr. Hyde Park, and it's a chance for them to win their second Connacht title. Seán, first off, you enjoying watching the football this time of year? How are you when it comes to November and club football?
It's I suppose nobody likes kind of as I say winter football with the soft pitches and stuff like that. I suppose my era would be well used to it because the league used to go on so long. There was like 20 teams in the divisional teams, and what happened then is like county would start again, the league would start in October, so well used to it. It's hard for these players because it's a long season. Like a lot of these teams will be training since January. So you're in your 11 months going, it's tough. And again, I suppose for the teams in McCullen who have the big panels, a bit easier, but for the teams like Carna and maybe the teams like Caltra and those who are in the intermediate, it's tough because they'd be kind of numbers game wouldn't be easy in transport. But I suppose it's one of those things. It's part of the game and parcel. I suppose it's going to be all over now by the second week of January, so you won't feel it now coming at all the finals.
First off, if we look at Moycullen yesterday, um, got the job done against Leitrim Gaels. Obviously, last week on the podcast, Alan Flynn was referencing the point that Leitrim Gaels were going to be down Donald Casey and David Brown, two Leitrim intercounty footballers. So they're obviously significant losses, and I think you could see as this game, Moycullen's strength and depth and their power and everything just proving too much for Leitrim Gaels.
Oh yeah, like you mean, I suppose they're relying in on the three Jones brothers who play for Manor, like, but when you take out Sean Kelly and someone like that from McCullen, like, and Desi, like, I mean, that's the difference what Leitrim gains. But surely enough, they give us a bit of a shock in the first 5 minutes, like scoring what 1-2 without reply. But then they showed the power of McCullen when they went on to score then 2-9 without reply, and like in 25, nearly 30, 25 minutes, and like and when Leitrim games only scored 1-9. But my worry for McCullen, and which still is, they're too relying still on Desi. And if you look at the teams that always do well for Galway going through the years, there's a spread of scores around from all the forwards. Now, Finn came in brilliantly there against them, scoring, I think, like 2-3. But then when you look at the rest of them, like, I mean, Maloney, O'Connor, Walsh only scoring one each. If you are to go to be kind of successful in the All Ireland, I suppose, after Connacht, you need to have more scoring. And this isn't Desi's problem or the sideline. It's just, I suppose, the other players need to come in. But it comes down to their style of football too, as well. When you think about it, it's more reliant on hit Desi and kind of the running game and the defensive game. But it's something that I think will come back and hurt McCullen in the end. When you look now who they're going to be playing now, like I suppose St. Bridget's, whose scoring is totally all over the place. So you need to mark everyone. So it's kind of a
Do you
scenario I
not
worry
think
for
do you
McCullen.
not think with Fionn chipping in yesterday, Niall Walsh has um created that balance in attack for Desi to get more space? Do you not think there still is three or four lads there who can chip in?
Yeah, but like Niall scored only a point, and I'm saying only a point. But you see, I suppose I'd love to see these guys showing 2, 3, or even on the freeze like Sean O'Connor and these guys, Johnny Maloney. It's just, it's my worry. I suppose if you want to look for a negative, it's a negative. And
Yeah.
I'm going on history. When you look at teams from Galway over the years have done well, they do spread the score around a bit more. Where you would have seen Salthill spreading the score a bit more. Now, they've had an easier run to this kind of final, having to play the Sligo and Leitrim champions where they weren't pushed to the cut that much, where they didn't have to push them. You have the opportunity to take Sean Kelly off and players like that where you can rest them. Didn't need Cookie the last day again, Peter Cook. But I worry that they're going into a kind of final against a very strong St. Bridget's team under the US of Cunningham, a very shrewd manager. What I've seen of them the last games in Roscommon and what I've seen them against Ballinstevenites, they're fit, they're strong. They do show weaknesses and they let in goals, but they can, when they want to, turn the screw strong. And looking at McCullen, do they have enough when things go wrong to turn it around? I'd be worried. Now, McCullen are serious. Don't put them down. They are a serious football team, but I do worry on that scenario.
If you look at Mike Cullen, I think Carl Clancy and the management team will have to be delighted really with the way they've been able to get through Shamrock Gales and Leitrim Gales, particularly after not winning a county title in 2 years. They obviously haven't been in Connacht since 2022, but the way they've been able to put themselves back into a Connacht final and put themselves back into contention for silverware.
Yeah, listen, no doubt. McCullen, pound for pound, are probably the best club team in Galway for the last 5 years. We've seen the players they had, inter-county experience, not only in Galway, but outside Galway. They're just one of those teams. I don't want to now be disrespectful to them. They're not the prettiest to watch. What I'm saying in the scenario where they're not the flair. We've seen other teams that were salted to be more flair, but they know how to win a game. And when you're there at this stage, like, I mean, that's what you want. Like, fairness, Carl Clancy having a tough year when you think of what's happened between God rest his soul, Don Connellan, then had to take over from there. But you can see, well, like, there's such a bond between that team. And that's what has them. They're kept together. They know what they need to do. They're at a stage probably they have improved compared to when the last couple of years when they got out of Galway. Again, maybe too defensive. So where these new rules kind of took that away. But again, I'm going back to my scenario where I'm just a bit worried that they're too reliant on Desi. Desi's a class act. Such a danger, putting up big scores like 110 was it 2 weeks ago, 1-7. Like they're serious scores. But you worry when that dries up or a bit more defended, where the score is going to come from. And you did mention from McDonough there, McDonough, a serious striker as well, and the other brother as well, Fiacre, I think. So, but I worry in the scenario where when they do get kind of cancelled out, where the score is going to come from. You can't rely on Sean Kelly and the boys and the other brothers coming through there. So that's my worry going into this kind of final.
Yeah, I think really you mentioned Leitrim Gales impressive start there, but Mike Cullen reeled off 2-9 between the 6 minutes
Yeah.
up to half time. Goals from Desi Keneally and Fiacre McDonough, Johnny Maloney, Fionn McDonough, Niall Walsh, and Sean O'Connor also um, getting in with scores. They really just took over then, didn't they?
Well, they show the experience, like, in all fairness. You said you missed the Leitrim Gaels, missing the two county boys. But as I say, they were able to turn the screw and they were going straight through the middle every time, open them up. They knew how to play the ball around. So, again, you could see a team with experience. Like, Leitrim Gaels, you kind of knew, you could look at them, you knew they're well out of their depth, and that's the way of looking at it. And again, I don't like being disrespectful of football teams, especially Leitrim, because to get as far as a kind of semi-final for a team like Leitrim Gaels was outstanding in what they achieved to date. But for likes of McCullen, it's not. It's about Connacht titles and All Ireland titles. They're gone to that stage. They need to win this. So this is just kind of a stepping stone. Get the job done. Get to the Connacht final, and that's what they did. And they did it very respectfully. Again, 1-2 down after 5 minutes. You kind of other teams to panic. They didn't panic, and that's the thing about it. And again, scoring 2-9 without reply, the game was over, you might as well say, after 25 minutes. You know what I mean? That's the way I looked at it. Then the game was over. And they had the kind of then the luxury of taking players off, trying on a few of the young lads again. And that's what it. But again, I think if I was Carl Clancy, I prefer a more competitive game going into a kind of title. Like their last game, you could say they were put to the cush was nearly over a month ago.
Yeah.
They're probably A versus B games at training, and McCullen had been probably more competitive than what they've had over the last month. And that's problem. Yes, one side, we're not bringing injuries in like that, but you need to be competitive. Where if you look at the likes of St. Bridget's, they've had those bit of competitive games. Right, Steve Knights were muck as well, and it just shows, I think you said it to me earlier, that no Mayo team have done any good. And we like seeing that and may continue on for a decade. But it's just a scenario that you'd like to go into these games, tried and tested, and the players are going in. That performance is not good enough to win a kind of title. McCullen are going in here saying we are a good team, but we don't know how good we are, and they will be tested in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, even if you look at the player scores, Desi got 1-7, Fionn McDonough 2-3, Fiacre McDonough a goal, Sean O'Connor, Johnny Maloney, Niall Walsh one each then.
Yeah. And you see, again, just too top heavy with Desi and Fun, and then you look at St. Bridget's stage, Ben O'Carroll, Bobby Nugent, a Galway to nightmare underage teams over the year, sending Bride back, what a guy to bring back into the thing again, Connor Carroll, Brian Ronan, These guys stack. So they have serious, serious footballers like Moycullen. So what I'm trying to say is I'm so looking forward to this Connacht final because you're going to have, and again, the game is up in the height. This is like a new surface. It's like a golf course up there at the moment. So it'll suit both teams. They won't be able to say that the surface isn't good enough. So it's going to be a good, high pace, but tactical, where Cunningham is an absolute genius tactically wise. His teams will always be super strong, super fit. They go out to know how to stop other teams, but know as
Yeah,
well when I was looking
I
there.
think Mike Cullen should be warned too. Kerfin obviously beaten by Pierces and Bridget's in the last 2 years. Like Roscommon clubs in the last 2 years have had the upper hand on Galway clubs.
Yeah, and even county wise, what I mean, anytime they came down to Pierce Stadium or Tuam, they have this they tend the tails up, and this is a very very Pierce's
This is a
last year.
Bridget's team that went very close to winning All Ireland too.
Yeah, and Bridges this year, the only thing I'm hearing out of Roscommon is they're talking about All Ireland.
Mm.
And that's the goal for this year. That they know nothing else but an All Ireland is going to be not successful for them. So that's what I'm saying. This is going to be a classic of two heavyweights going like pound for pound. My worry for McCullen is, which we've mentioned, is just they're too reliant on one or two players. And I hope, but they do have these players that on the day that they do stand up and give them the opportunity to stand out and they're able to bring it home for them.
Two my Cullen players that I feel should be worth a look on the Galway panel this year. Um, Seán O'Connor consistently has improved every game throughout the championship. Defensively, very impressive, but even his runs from wing back have been really impressive. I think Fionn McDonagh is beginning to get more and more scores. There's surely maybe two players that Pork has to be thinking of now.
Yeah, like Sean was an outstanding, probably one of the outstanding players from last year's under 20 team last year in Galway. So he does need that. And Galway, if we're looking to the future, these are the guys we need to be bringing in to Galway. And again, we have to understand like he's only 20, so but we'd be looking that if these guys been brought in, given the opportunity, not be part of a backroom panel but given the opportunity, a proper opportunity in the next 24 months these guys should be primed and ready and be the next star for the Galway team. And 100% correct what you said there. They're serious players, and Fionn again, same thing, showing day
Particularly
in,
if you
day
look at
out.
the size of Phil McDonagh, he's obviously a
Yeah,
quite tall player. Don't really think we have an inside forward maybe like that. Obviously Damien Comer's a target in there, but particularly a corner forward with that height inside, I think particularly at intercounty level, Phil McDonagh could really
mm.
add something to go out there.
But then again, if you're looking at McCullen, he's not used in that kind of category with the high ball
Mm.
in as well, so
Yeah.
he's not where you think he would be used more for his height. Going back to where you're saying Galway, again, these guys, I suppose we keep forgetting they're young, they're inexperienced in the scenario of county level. Club level and county level is like first
Well,
gear and fifth gear.
Fiona's 25 now.
He is, and that's what I'm saying. It's harder for these guys when you're
Mm.
going from where they are into county standard. It's easier for the younger lads because they're coming from kind of county under 20s where they're used to the S&C, the strength and the fitness. Where these guys, when you're out of that for a few years, it's not easy. And that's where these development squads are kind of should be used and kind of what goal we have at the moment.
Saying that for Mike Cullen, if they were to win a second Connacht title, from winning their first in 2022 would be some achievement.
Listen, we've seen that with Corfin the last couple of years. It's not easy to win these kind of titles. We took them for granted when Corfin went on for that great reign of three in a row. And again, we thought it was kind of there. We see now they're not so easy. We're probably seeing where the other counties, especially Roscommon, these clubs are getting stronger themselves. There is great competition in Galway, and that's seen, and it's only good for Galway County, I suppose, standards that all these clubs were. You're talking there's three or four clubs, and we said it this year that could win the senior championship. So it's only good on that scenario. McCullen are as good as any team there at the moment. They're going into this kind of final with a serious good chance,
Yeah.
but they need to be at their best to win it. They did what they have to do up to now, and so they're in the right place.
Yeah, you'd really have to feel for James McLaughlin. It really felt like he was starting to, I suppose, put these injuries to one side, and then he pulls up in the warm-up yesterday.
Yeah, like you pick out these players and you nearly have them in every county. A guy who's probably one of the next stars of Galway up in the dome, it was an FBD. Remember, put in a warm up the same thing, pulled a hamstring, and never really is having the opportunity. And a good club run would have been serious for him, like a serious talent, But he's young, he's still young like that, and maybe trying too hard and just maybe just giving himself a chance, good recovery, get back into it again. But it's unfortunate because he's lucky he's with a good strong team and given the opportunity, but it's just not going his way. But listen, he's young. If he keeps his mind strong, he'll be there and thereabout.
He gave Colin Clancy the opportunity yesterday as that game went on. He was able to bring Killian Gallagher in. He was able to bring Conor Corcoran in for Sean Kelly, Owen Maguire in, Mark Hines in, Charlie Cox in, and Mark Bradley in. Like particularly for these younger players coming through in Moycullen, it's great to give them that exposure of Connacht Championship football.
It is, and but my worry there, they'd learn more in a Galway league match than they would there. The thing what they
Mm.
got there really was just a bit of experience, and Snar was saying, I've played in a Connacht semi-final. They've had tougher matches, those lads underage. So, but it's just great opportunity for them to say, listen, for the I suppose the conveyor belt that McCullen have in the years to come to have that bit of experience. It's a pity where a lot of these lads would be playing a lot of they'd make any senior club, any other one, especially around the West, but they're not getting the opportunity because they do have a bit of a, how do you say, a bit of a category of a few blow-ins like players like Johnny Maloney, these guys where they have all these players in there from outside the county where you're kind of saying it's brilliant for them at one stage, but it's a hindrance for them as well, where these young players you just mentioned aren't getting the opportunity. And then you have the story of Peter Cook. Like if he comes in, there's one of these players that are being dropped, and is it fair because he's not training with them? But at the end of the day, the
If
supporters and
I
the
get
players,
this wrong, my Cullen supporters can easily come back to me and give me
I hope
grief
they
over it.
do.
But um I don't see Mike Cullen winning a Connacht title without Peter Cook on the pitch.
Well, it was obvious the day they played Saltill, like they didn't start him, and you know what I mean. Saltill were able to put a foothold. He comes on with the win and scores two monster two pointers. Now he was a bit quiet in the second half, and you can't blame him for that because you're a bit off the pace against the wind that day too. Like, but like McCullen need Peter Cook when you have a player of that
Yeah.
caliber, standard. The way I look at Peter Cook, even Peter Cook not playing well, it takes a good. You have to put a good marker on him, a county level player on it. And that's a player then they
Particularly
can
you
put
look
someone
around the
else.
middle, Eddie Nolan, Shane Canan, all these players like there's so much Roscommon experience too. I just feel the need Cook and
Of
particularly
course they do.
as you talked about there, Desi and Fionn. I think if you have Peter there, it's an option for Bridget to think about, and it's an option that Bridget will be worried about.
Yeah. But what I've seen with Peter Cook and Cookie, as we call him, like, I mean, when he's going well, McCullen are different. He brings a different angle to them. I find that when he's on the ball, they're not as kind of easy to read. He brings another dimension into them. You know what I mean? He's strong running at them. He's strong in the middle. He's able to take a score, that two-pointer. Like, I mean, you have to push out at him. When he's not there, they defend more because of Desi around that kind of scenario. So again, you summed it up there in all fairness, Paul. It's just a different dimension he brings to McCullen football. And I agree, if McCullen are to win the Connacht title against St. Bridget's, I think, and I agree with you, Cookie needs to start. But then as a manager called Clancy, he wasn't playing the last day. He didn't play against the so you're kind of, and then the lads who've done the job for him that brought them as far as this Connacht title. Like, do you drop them? Is that fair? And you're probably on the other side say, no, it's not fair. So this is the problem where the manager, if he does it, does he keep a camp happy or not do it? So it's kind of a, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes, but I know what I would do personally if I was the manager of McCullen, but I'm not.
Not that Bridget or Mike Cullen are thinking about this yet, but there is a massive test even coming after this. I don't know, are people aware, but the Connacht champions will play the Ulster champions. If I was tipping someone out of Ulster at the minute, you could not but look at Kilcoo potentially for
Ah.
one of these clubs in an All Ireland semi final. So it's safe to say if Mike Cullen were to, I suppose, get to an All Ireland final in Croke Park, it's going to be fairly hard earned.
Yeah, but you look at those. I saw Kilcoo there. Was it 2 weeks ago? Or like they were playing what do you call it? Serious stuff. But again,
Lochmacorry last weekend, I think it was.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
last weekend, like it, no, it was a bad old day up there now. In all fairness, like, but they're such a seasoned outfit. They know how to dog. Like we're going away from McCullough now as well, but they're just as you said yourself. But again, they're just such a great team, and you saw what they did before, and like they when they played, it was the McCullough that said they played Corofin, wasn't it? Is that what 2 3 years ago? They did play
Yeah,
Kilcoo.
it's
That's the time
20.
the rattle, I think, is it?
I was 2020.
Yeah.
I'd say it was just before COVID. I think
Yeah.
actually it was.
But a
Yeah,
lot of
yeah,
those players are still playing. Like, I mean, they're only like
yeah.
a bit few years older. But the thing about it, none of those managers, called Clancy and Cunningham, are not looking at Kilcoo or
No.
any Kilcoo. They're looking at each other, preparing the best they can for this game. And really,
What?
They know
What
each other.
about the Galway man in goals? Actually, we forgot to
Yeah.
mention him for Bridges. Connacht Junior. He's definitely added a new dimension to Bridges, hasn't he?
Well, he is. You're talking experience, just an all-over class goalkeeper. And we don't understand the importance of the keepers that we see them now regarding kickouts and the strength in the goal. They're worth 4 or 5 points now, a good goalkeeper. And that's the problem. Again, a player that can play outfield, he's comfortable coming out as only as he's in the goal mouth, and his kick out is his first as good as any. Like so, again, class act. Like I mean, like that. We could have done with him in Galway, you could say, nearly to a certain day.
Um, just obviously on your neighbours, Carna. Unfortunate yesterday for them to exit the Connacht Championship.
Yeah, it's kind of it's cruel to be kind of even look at it one way because the celebrations and the kind of the they say here the glinder after winning beating Williamstown and winning the junior title, but then having to play Clare Galway's second team and then to lose and still be junior. It again we I think we've had this conversation, Paul, many a time over the years saying the county board need to look at this. It's just makes no sense. At the mean, put them in the second teams in with the teams. As simple as
Yeah.
that. Like at least if you win the county title, it's it where you're there. It just makes no sense where these bigger teams like Clare Galway and Normore and Corfin who have two panels against these teams, it makes no sense. Like, and that's what happened. They went in against Anavas knowing that hoping to win a Connacht title, but knowing they're still going to play junior next year. And they're unlucky too, just they have had no luck since really that county final. We can talk about the penalty that never was, the opportunities they missed even at the end, where they went on here and only lose by a point, but you could see the heart wasn't there. Great players like Darrow Coulon scoring 1-4, Mikey Brannoch, Jacob Conroy. They're a good team, but I just think what happened there, you could see the heart wasn't there. It just, as I say, it was kind of more, they're going to probably talk to themselves. It's about next year again, trying to get intermediate. And again, so it's kind of a pointless, really.
I was listening to Darren Kelly's interview with John Casey after the game. He seemed very frustrated that there wasn't more injury time. It maybe felt to him like there should be more injury time, but then also he did reference the point that Carna Cashel probably did have chance after chance to I suppose go in front or even level the game, and they just couldn't get their noses in front, and it's probably frustrating considering they create the opportunities.
Oh, listen, first thing, John has done unbelievable this year with this Carna team. Like, he's molded kind of a good balanced team between young and old regarding that team. He's brought a bit of belief back into this area, badly hit with immigration. And he's just brought a bit of belief there. And that's why, I suppose, for myself personally, and or there, you kind of, when they kind of get so near to win a county title and then still be junior. And again, as I said, regarding as you said yourself, time. Listen, hindsight's a great thing. When you lose a game, we always want more injury time. We can look at last night and the Irish soccer team, what they did, you know what I mean, like that. So Hungary probably wish they'd played a bit more injury time as well, but it didn't work out that way. But regarding John, they should be very proud of what they achieved. It's just I probably they probably celebrated that county final against Williamstown to the T, and with a very little much then recovery, they could have done with another week that time. That's what I thought they could have done with another week, and it wasn't coming. So that was a problem there. So they went into that county final against Clare Galway, probably not to where they'd want to be. And who can blame them when you hadn't won a county final for so long? It was hard, but again, there's good players coming through there. So listen, hopefully John's there again for them next year, and they give it a better neck wrestler. They're not far off it, and you know what I mean. A bit of luck next year, I can see them being up intermediate.
Yeah, it feels like they really want to push now to get to intermediate
Mm.
next year, considering what they. It's sort of a mixed year, isn't it? Like they can obviously be proud of winning that junior title and getting into Connacht, but then obviously to not go up the grade after winning the championship, it'll sort of be a mixed one for them to look back on.
Yeah, it just it makes no sense to me. And I kind of in hindsight, we've looked at it, and I keep talking about it, saying you win a county final. There's no cup, and as I say after the fruit ball, the Westport, there's no cup even winning a county final. But you kind of ask the question why, and then you go on to the sorry, I call it the two county finals. I'm still confused, like the kind you play the second team, but it's just no sense, and it needs to be looked at, and sooner more than later. The bigger teams will have no problem with this, but I keep saying the bigger teams should have their own league championship for themselves. Simple as that. Big enough, do it that way and let the other teams fight it out. To me, that's the easy way of doing it.
Sean, I know me and you have probably agreed now on this point for a long time, but you were obviously involved with a Roscommon divisional team this year. Looking at the senior championship at the minute and the year gone by, would you agree that apart from four teams, there isn't any other team that could say they could win the senior championship?
Like we did your power ranking. I just kind of put it out there. I was way closer than you anyway. That's for sure. But just put it because I know you're trying to say nothing about it for a while. But it's at a scenario where now you have all these other teams, and it's kind of a scenario where it's just about surviving. And where I'm coming from on this scenario, where I'm asking Paul Bellew and the county board representative to seriously look at this. When the university wanted to come into a championship, they were given a free rail because it was seen as history and they were brought in. And we've done this before. I think it's a time where it doesn't make a difference being senior football if you don't have a chance. And we're losing out on good players. And me and you had this conversation. The development squad at the moment has no intermediate players at this moment in time or a
Yeah.
junior. And if we took that back when I started playing
Well,
with
they
John
have
O'Gara,
one
rest his
junior,
soul,
Jack Donlan from Williamstown, as
well,
sub
Williamstown,
keeper, but
Jack, yeah,
that's it,
and they're
Jack.
good.
Yeah.
But you expect more where they're not getting the opportunity, and you don't. And I'm not. This is no way blaming Power and his management team because you want to look at players who played well in the senior championship because you think that's the thing. If we based it on that, Derek Savage would never got a rattle with Galway. If we base it
Mm.
on now, because intermediate, because he came in as an intermediate, I'd hope they'd look at in a scenario where bring it down to 12 senior teams and four divisional teams, or three a 13. Do it like Kerry. And I keep putting this scenario where if it works in Kerry and it's good enough for Kerry, the most successful senior county team ever, why can't we do it in Galway? Because we're losing players underage, junior and intermediate guys going to Dublin because they know themselves there isn't a chance. Where I seen in Roscommon, I'm part of a divisional team, and we're lucky to that now we got two of the players who would never got a look in before are now being asked to go into a development team with Roscommon. And that's where the goal is. You're getting lads who play junior and intermediate the chance to play at the highest level. And it'll only be good for Galway. And it's only good for the smaller clubs because when you have players there playing senior championship, they come back. It's not rocket science. It's a no-brainer. And the more we stick our head in the sand, I know the bigger clubs are probably saying, well, we won't be winning senior championship medals. It's not about that. It's all about the county. It's about the smaller players, and that's the way to do it. Because you look at the likes of Clare Galway or more Corfin, are they not divisional teams anyway? The size of them. If you
Yeah.
look at the population, so what's the difference given opportunity for Malganation clubs under intermediate thing? I see no difference.
This is obviously what we would be saying here is the divisional teams will be made up of intermediate and junior teams.
Yeah.
Obviously, you might have to. I think if you were to maybe gradually do it, maybe it just happens that you relegate two senior teams, and it progressively happens through that. And the divisional teams would obviously be made up of intermediate and junior players. So what you'd be saying there is 12 senior clubs, and then to introduce four divisional teams. I presume you probably have West, North, East, and South Galway, and I suppose they'll be made up of areas between um intermediate and junior. Is it?
There's many kind of formats you can use, Paul. Like I've seen it as well. Like Kerry, they played off early. You can use three divisional teams. They do this in Roscommon too, where the divisional teams play each other. If there's three or four, that the two best teams go through, and they automatically go through to the quarterfinals. There's ways around you. Like I don't want to say to any intermediate club that they should get relegated because that's not right either. Because to
Yeah.
bring in a divisional team, but there's ways of doing it that there's no hurt. That you can keep what's there, bring down an extra intermediate team if you want to, and if you know you're getting relegated, and a lot of those lads have a chance of still playing with a seriously strong divisional team, like Shane Welch, probably one of the best talented forwards we had in the team. One of his comments was he wanted to play senior football. But if we had that in North Galway, he had no reason to go up and play for up in Dublin. So I see this as a thing that should be given a chance over 3 years. And listen, it won't be right, but I guarantee you it'll only make the county stronger. And these players, and where we talk about these development squads, you might need them because you have your development squad with the underage guys coming through and the divisional teams. So, and I can also tell you, serious matches, and you bring a lot of people and supporters together to watch these teams playing at a high level.
But this is the point. If people look back at this, It gives every player a chance to win a Frank Fox. It makes the senior championship more competitive in an overall context because since okay, if you take for instance since 2012, four teams have won the Galway Senior Football Championship. Those four clubs being Salthill Knocknacarra in 2012 haven't won it since. Moycullen have obviously came. Kerfin, we've obviously seen what they've done for the last decade. And Montbellew, my law, won one title as well between that period. So what I'm saying there is four clubs have won a senior football championship in 13 years. Like that's
And you can tell yourself now, we might as well say the next 10 years, that ain't going to change.
yeah.
And so we're kind of looking at a scenario where what is it going in now with the clubs you mentioned, they're probably saying, listen, that's not fair for us because we're doing nothing wrong. And it's not that. I think that like a divisional team will only make these guys stronger because you have the competition being played against. They're still going to represent Galway. The kind of way the kind of title, so that. But what you're doing is they doing look at Kerry, they have two championships. They have the divisional championship and they have then their club championship as well. But I just think it's a scenario where you're having clubs getting relegated and it's the doom all. The players are saying, why bother? Where they can say, you know what, actually, I wouldn't mind getting relegated because I'm a good player, I have a chance of playing senior county still, club level to win a championship medal and junior. And I just think it's just an opportunity that we need to embrace and actually have a debate about at Congress level.
Yeah, because if I think if you look at an overall context, there's players at intermediate or junior level who are never going to get to play senior football.
100% and great footballers that will never get the opportunity to ever win a county senior championship medal. And the thing
I
about it,
presume as well if you look at it like your own son Matthew playing as a minute, he's going under 20. You're obviously hopeful Carrow will get there at some stage, but even for lads like that who are playing at a county underage level to get the chance too.
listen, not only we're talking like you mentioned my own son, but I can tell you, take out McCullen, take out Salthill, no Galway West team will even ever win a county, not in the next 20 years. Full stop. And like you can say the same. So you're kind of saying to these other players, these teams who have put in serious amount of Trojan work, underage and all this stuff, these players, isn't it great to say, you know what? There's another opportunity for me. So listen, if you have a strong club team, you're always going to do it. But if I don't, I have another opportunity. And I just think it's a trick we're missing. And the prime example, the two Cliffords played for Fossa, who only the 4 years ago won the Junior All Ireland and were playing. Paddy Clifford would not be playing for Kerry if it wasn't for amalgamation team. Full
Yeah,
stop. And that is no word of it, sir.
yeah.
And you
And
look at then the Gainies and all those were intermediate. They're only coming through. Oh, and because me, these clubs get stronger then when the players are coming back from playing senior amalgamation, going back to their clubs.
yeah, and it gives clubs the opportunity of one, obviously to play senior football. Two, if they're at the right age profile and their performances will obviously catch headlines, it gives them that intercounty, I suppose, shop window to potentially
100%.
get a call in. And even for to go back to some of these clubs in the intermediate and junior. Like this is not just progressing potentially maybe a senior championship, but it's also progressing an intermediate and a junior championship as well.
100%. And it makes, I suppose, the more we talk about it, it more frustrates me in the scenario where these conversations, they bring in stuff at club level regarding stuff really makes no sense to me. They're making money now on the TV, stuff like that. I just see the scenario. If we are to progress as a county and our players, and if we're serious about it, we need to have a serious conversation about it. And it's simple as that. I don't know why these smaller clubs who have their delegation going in and aren't making noise about it.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Because I understand from the bigger clubs, they don't want to bring it up because if it's not broken, don't fix it. But if for the smaller clubs we're mentioning, and I'm talking smaller clubs, when I'm saying smaller senior clubs who are, as I say, struggling to have a panel of 35, 40 players. Don't, like we're talking like clubs, no point talking your junior A team. You're talking, you have to be able to put up a strong team. Where think about it, you're as a manager of one of these clubs have to say, well, if you play well here, lads, you have a chance actually to make the amalgamation team. It's a
Yeah.
carrot. So the
Yeah.
way it is, we need to have this conversation, not me and you on a podcast, but the delegations, the guys who had the votes to bring it up to be, we know it's not going to happen in 26, but like in 27, 28, that it's in the calendar, that it's ready to go, that this is the way it's going to go. Be it only two teams, three teams, four teams. Like four teams would be hard.
You're still keeping the majority of senior clubs. Like
Yeah.
we're not saying to get rid of senior clubs, but we're saying for the overall contest and to make a senior football championship more competitive in Galway, this
But,
definitely has to be considered.
but if they only did two, like if you're north, east, south, west together, two.
Yeah.
And if you even started with two there, two amalgamation teams, put them in the championship. See
Yeah,
what
even
happens.
something like throw them in a preliminary quarterfinal
Yeah.
or something like that. Maybe the two teams that finish second place or something, third, maybe that scraps then third place of getting through to a preliminary quarterfinal. There's more at stake as the groups. The two, I suppose, divisional teams, whatever you want to call them, potentially in a championship, they play the two teams that came second with the least
Yeah.
amount of points in a preliminary quarterfinal, and that's
I just
potentially,
love to see it like you said, Paul. Just see it like you said it there. You know the team. If you're going to get beaten by that, see how it goes. Give it a chance.
yeah,
And I guarantee you, the first games, you'll have a full house in any pitch around the country because the amount of clubs and people that love to see it. I'd love to see it. I'd be the first person inside the gate
yeah.
seeing this. Like, I love to manage a team of amalgamation as well. I think about the opportunity of these guys, and like I've seen it myself in Roscommon, the passion of these guys to get the opportunity to play senior championship, club championship. Like it's serious. It's like it's another level again. There's no talk of commitment. It's there. It's unbelievable.
For anyone that say, Sean, the obvious point of there's drawbacks, it doesn't mean the same as their own club. What
No,
would you say?
they've never done it. It's like
Yeah,
saying winning. It's like saying playing for your county. It's not your club. When
yeah,
you're not only are you playing, you're not playing for your club, but you are playing for your club. You're representing your club. You'll always
yeah.
represent your club because when you play county, you're representing your county, but you're also representing your club. When you're an amalgamation, you're representing your club on that amalgamation. So it to me, it does not make sense. You're playing for amalgamation team with the guys you try to take lumps out of maybe the week before, but all of a sudden you're going to fight for and spill blood this week because you have the opportunity to play at a higher level and you're putting yourself out there in that shop window, as you said. And for the likes of Porrick Joyce as a county manager, underage managers, you're seeing guys playing at that high level. And I just think it's just, we need to have this conversation now and actually have a debate about it at county level.
How do you think this can, I, I suppose, on something like this on a podcast, it can obviously get oxygen, and some people might agree, some people might disagree, but this is obviously where it starts. But how do you think this can maybe progress further and get to county board level and be able to have these conversations?
But it's up to the smaller clubs, like, and I'm saying smaller clubs, the intermediate clubs, the junior clubs, they need to have whoever their delegation who's going in, whoever their member of the club is, they have to bring it at the next meeting saying, guys, we want you to look at this. It's as simple as that. Like there's more intermediate junior clubs than senior clubs. So
Yeah.
we have more votes. So that's the simple thing. Now, maybe Paul Bellew and the county board don't want to hear this, but it's a debate. We're not banging the table and saying this has to be done. We're saying we need to have this conversation and to look at it and not to throw it out and say, listen, everything's going fine in Galway. Maybe it is, but it's not because the smaller clubs are dying. The medium clubs that are playing senior are dying. They're losing oxygen in the scenario where the lads are there saying, I have no chance of winning a Frank Fox. When I was playing, our club were very lucky to win one. But that time there was 10 or 12 teams were saying, we have a chance of winning the Frank Fox. We have a chance here. But now the bigger clubs are getting bigger. We're like Dublin to a certain T. And again, please do not think this is disrespectful to any of those clubs because the amount of underage work that goes into those teams and the amount of people, again, volunteers who do this. But where I'm coming from is don't be afraid of this conversation. Embrace it because it will only do good for you as well.
Yeah, and Sean's agreed to take charge of West Galway as well.
Listen, you'd be surprised. It'd be an honor. Like it'd be like an underage
Yeah,
because you think about it. You're there. No, it could be the as I say the poison chalice because how do you pick a panel of 24? They'll be
yeah.
kind of click.
No, it will be a lot of headaches there.
It would be, but the thing about it is, it's a development thing. I would just again love to see it in the scenario where we're showing progression, and we go back to the conversation, Paul. If it works in Kerry, now I know they do it in Cork as well, and it's not so great, especially hurling. But the thing about it again, if it works in Kerry, why not do it?
Would you be against them maybe running a divisional championship? I know it's something they do in Kerry where they have the East Kerry
Yeah.
Championship, they have the West Kerry Championship, the North Kerry Championship. They're actually them games remarkably are still being played. Would you be against running something like that?
But no, why would I? Anything that actually brings it to the table and to be seen
Yeah,
by the supporters, maybe that's the way to go forward. Try that out for 1 year
yeah.
and have it see what it works out as.
I think if you're playing that, maybe it's something to do maybe without county players because at the same time you can't expect
But we
it.
wouldn't have many if you think about how many county players is there junior intermediate. You wouldn't
Yeah.
be losing
No,
that
I'm just
many.
saying if maybe you're to introduce the senior clubs with the intermediate and
Yeah,
junior clubs all into divisional championship, maybe that's something you play before they start the league. I
yeah.
know it's something they actually do in Mayo. They have sort of a divisional championship before the league starts. So maybe that's
I
something to think of
if
too.
they only had a blitz, I wouldn't care at this stage. It's just to get it on the table that you're
Yeah,
able to put out two or three teams divisional. That's all I care about this moment in time.
yeah,
And it's just something
yeah,
that we're showing that the I suppose, and I'm not gonna. It's not fair just to blame the county board because at the end of the day, it comes from the clubs,
yeah,
and that's where it come from. If the clubs we been doing the same thing over the last couple of years, you see the same talk. I suppose I'm talking to the delegates saying players, talk to the players, talk to the guys on the ground, talk to the guys who are slogging. These young lads are saying, we all see them. That's a great bit of talent. And they do get that opportunity the odd time underage. But if you look at the underage development, the majority of them underage playing under 17 and under 19 and 20, they're from the bigger clubs. You see, especially go to trial matches, you could see one club there having 15 players.
yeah,
So where I'm coming from, give the opportunity to these clubs, amalgamation, see where it goes, give it 3 years. Don't point to in 1 year, give it 3 years, and after 3 years, sit back and look at it again, assess it, and say, was it successful? Was it not? But I can tell you one thing, I put a lot of money on it, it would be successful and it'd be a bonus. And you'd see a lot of players from junior players, clubs, playing and on the county panel.
yeah. No, I agree with you there. Sean, just I suppose the Galway Senior Football Development Squad played Mayo Friday night in Milltown. They lost 2-12 to 1-8 and Mayo won by 7 in the end. I think Galway had it back to 1, but Mayo finished strongly. I just on the makeup of the squad, so this is a squad list that I came by. I'm sure the development and management team weren't hoping for so many people to get their hands on it, but it just shows the power, I suppose. If you're going to play a game in Milltown, people probably will figure it out eventually. But just on the makeup, so Ian McGrath, Clare Galway, Aaron Kavanagh, Berna, Connor Carson, Kerfin, Jack Folan, St James's, Owen Finnerty, St James's, Dara Burke, Monavea Abbey, Dara Heenan, Tombstairs, Stairs, Conall Gallagher, St Michael's, Matthews Barrett, Letchermore, Matthew Reddington, Dunmore McKays, Shane McGrath, Dunmore McKays, Ryan Roach, Killannon, Jack Mullen, Clare Galway, Charlie Power, Sawtell, Car, Liam Costello, Milltown, Jack Donlan, Williamstown, Sean Dunn, Berna, Casey O'Galley, Letchermore, Glenn Kelly, Monavea Abbey, Jack Nolan, St James's, Kieran Mulhern, Montbellion My Law, Brian Cogger, Curfin, Dara Walsh, Killannon, Keane Costello, St James's, and Ushi McDonough, Letchermore. What have you made of some of those players involved with the development squad?
Well, I suppose one, again, we're talking about amalgamation teams. It's brilliant seeing these guys get a chance. So, like going through the list you there, a few notes on them. A lot of them, like you take out Matthew Wrighton, who's near enough to the 30, and I suppose Matthias Barrett, who's 27, who would have been on the county, excuse me, team a couple of years ago, and Shane McGrath. A lot of them are only about 21, 22. And it's brilliant that they've been brought in and given the opportunity to train and have, I suppose, the county backroom team looking after them. They played Mayo there, didn't come off the right side of it. I know they've had trial matches as well against university teams, stuff like that. Again, Galway tried this back a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Was it Decky and Joe, and I think was it who else was there as well through the FBD, kind of
Yeah,
managed them. Really, it was only who came through that. Really was Darcy was probably the only player that came out of that. If you look back long enough, it was Darcy that came through that. It's a good thing, but I hope it's not a tick the box that we
mm,
get this time. I know Mayo are doing it, Roscommon are doing it. But for us, I think we need to maybe look a bit deeper regarding a scenario where it's not a scenario where come June, sorry, January, February that they're let go again. I think these guys will only go back to their own clubs. I'm looking there, a lot of these players, like it's great to see the likes of Kevin's young lad Dara, Walsh, and Roach from Moycullen, who had a good season. And I suppose, but we look at this, a lot of these players are based on how they played in the senior championship this year. And
Yeah.
that's what we're looking at. And this is where we're going back to. I think you said there, we've only one junior player. There's no intermediate player there. Hopefully that will change now with probably Caltra and those coming in. But then again, we're coming near and into the season. Will they be brought in now at this stage? So it's one of those things. Great seeing these lads getting the chance. They've had some of these lads played under what they call it minor and under 20 for Galway on the latter years and would know the system. Um, I always worry about this because do they get the proper opportunity?
I would be hoping that 4 or 5 of these lads push on to senior 26 this year at least.
I'd hope so too, but I'm looking at the Galway panel last year, and I can name 4 or 5 players I could think didn't get a proper opportunity last year, and I'd hope they get a proper one this year. But you would expect at least, I say, three that would get a chance to get called in properly to give the proper opportunity. But then again, there's no point bringing these guys in if they're only there to make up A versus B games. I'd love to see them play in the FBD. I'd love to see them get a few league chances because Galway need to be looking at championship and have these guys ready come June.
From what I'd say, Galway are due to play Leitrim and London in the FBD League. They're going to be 2 games, and then if they come first and second in the group, they're in the FBD Cup final. If they come third and fourth, they're in the FBD Shield final. And they come fifth and sixth, and they're in the I think it's the FBD Plate final. So I'd say by looking at that, that the development squad are probably going to play the FBD League, and the senior footballers will be away somewhere else, playing challenge matches.
Yeah, but you see, this is the problem with this development team. Every other county is going to do the same.
Yeah,
So you might as well say they'll get more competition playing a university team like Sigerson team. So the
yeah.
same thing happened if you think back of it, was it 3 or 4 years ago? The same thing happened. I think they got to the final. I think Roscommon then put out their kind of first team and they bet Galway's development squad. So I kind of worry about these things because in hindsight on paper it looks good. We expect, oh yeah, they're going to get experience playing Roscommon's team, Mayo team. No, they're going to be playing their development teams. So are you not better off than just having like you heard John Prenti fighting for revenue and this FBD? But are we not degrading the FBD again by playing as a second competition team? Are these guys better having another competition for themselves where they get the opportunity to play with the first team?
Uh,
That's me
uh,
coming from it.
yeah, a lot's changed since your FBD days.
I can tell you the FBD was seen more important to us than the National League because you knew if you won the FBD, you got a free trip to New York in October. So it
Would
like,
you would they mention that back in the day?
oh,
Like would
we mentioned it.
yeah,
Oh, listen, we were lucky enough. We got 2 or 3 trips to New York. I tell you, there was more bite in an FBD final than a Connacht final because
yeah,
you knew that there was a holiday at the end of it and you wanted to be part of that team and you wanted to get there. And that's why it was such a high intensity competition because everyone knew they had a chance to get there.
yeah, yeah. It's like it's hard to understand why it was got rid of for a year and now it's back again. It's a sort of hard one to understand, isn't it?
It was because you see the other provinces like in Ulster, the same thing. I think down north is McGrath. What's the one up Ulster? It's
Yeah, the McGrath Cup down in Munster,
Yeah, I
McKenna
forget.
Cup up in
Kenny
Ulster.
Cup,
Yeah,
yeah. You see, the thing about this is it's a great pre-league competition where you give an opportunity to maybe 3 or 4 players to play with the rest of them and guys who come back from injury and all this stuff. Now you see with the likes of Galway because when they're having longer seasons, but the season, don't forget, Galway haven't played since June or July. When I'm forgetting now.
that
When we
was
just
that
July,
that was
early
June.
July,
Yeah, that was June.
June.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So they haven't played together for the last 4 or 5 months, and they're not going to play again till January.
yeah. And
So
Mayo
you're kind of
too.
saying is it's not like before where you're playing to September, October, and then you're back again. So that's why this I thought they could even start this competition a bit earlier, start it in maybe October, play it over the 3 months to December for the league to start.
Obviously, we're looking ahead to 2026 at the minute. What's your prediction for Galway in 2026?
It's strange because we all expected, I suppose, a big shake-up in the management team. When I'm saying selectors and stuff, which didn't involve. We look at Kerry and how they're spicing it up, and Roscommon new management and Mayo. Again, I suppose Park's looking at a scenario where he is under a bit pressure this year, in a scenario where we didn't have a great season last year. What happened? We went out with a bit of a whisper against Meath. There will be a lot of, I suppose, eyes looking at what happens, and you were talking about new players coming in. I'd love to see a new few new faces in there. I'd love to see Jason Sherlock in there. I thought that was a great coup by Roscommon, bringing him in. Big experience
Do
there.
you think there's any chance Galway are going to bring in a new coach at this stage, or do you think it's going to
No,
stay as it
no, it's
is?
too late now. If you're
Yeah,
going to bring in a coach, you would have brought him in over a month ago, 2 months ago. Yeah, for Galway. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, is Park looking for a new coach? Like, I mean, that's another story. Like, so it's kind of a scenario where maybe he's happy what he has. He's maybe given more responsibilities to these guys. Don't forget, we've lost Divo, a serious, well experienced person there on the sideline for the last couple of years. Well respected and loved by the players. So not only no new faces, we've lost a very experienced coach, probably the most experienced coach that was there. So that's the reason I was expecting a bit of a kind of a new face coming in with experience. And Donny, there was talk of him there. He's gone down to Jack's team as well. So there's going to be kind of questions on our performances and how we play. And the league will be we're Division One. A lot of away games. I was looking at. We're doing a lot of traveling
Yeah,
this year
it's a
against
tough league
serious.
campaign the way the fixtures have landed.
Yeah, so you know how it is. If you start losing one or two games all of a sudden and you're on the road again, the games that we have away, I'd love to have them at home. And the ones that we have at home, I wouldn't mind them having them away. So it's a tough one this year for them. And so we could be going to a championship this year. And I'm not going to say we'll put it this way, we'll struggle to stay up. That's what I'm going to say this year, based on how, because the way the league is with us at the moment, like in the injuries and what the players are.
Can Galway win Sam in 2026?
That's an awful question to me. This is where the old heart and head, is it?
Yeah, geez, Sean, I don't, you're not sounding too convincing there now.
Listen, I'm not one of those guys. I don't bet. I don't go to the bookies. I don't pull at that. But I look at the stats. I see how the other teams are evolving. I see what's around us. What I can say is, if Galway are to win the All Ireland this year, they will have to play better than they've played in the last 3, 4 years.
Yeah, I think
And that's been honest with you. That's even when you take back when we got to the final there against Armagh, where we were just in fingertips distance of winning it. We need to be better. So for you and for your listeners and your viewers, we need to play better, and that's the best I can say it. Can I see that happening? I don't see it happening, us improving.
particularly with the way football is at the minute, the ceiling's higher now for teams to win in All Ireland.
It is, and the new rules, which I thought would probably suit us better, it's probably suited other teams better to us than the way our players have been evolving.
Yeah,
And again, you look at injuries like your own club man Demo shows you how much we missed him, and your own club showed you when he was there the difference. So we need all these guys playing out of their skin. I think we mentioned, is it Matthew Thompson's going traveling? Huge
looks
loss. I
like it.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
huge loss. You can't like, and then Peter Cook, is he here or not? We don't know. A lot of these players have a lot of mileage under them. We haven't been great underage, under 20s the last couple of years, and this is not like where the success hasn't been shown. So I suppose the stats, what we've seen, isn't in our favour. That's probably the way I can put it. I hope, my heart would love to see Galway win All Ireland. We all do, because we look at the soccer a code and we're losing to them now, because a lot of people are watching the soccer team play well at the moment and they're out kicking soccer balls, and we've lost our prime window where people were playing GA. We haven't kicked a football except for club football county in the last 6 months, which would be worrying for me because we're not seeing our county in the limelight.
Yeah, you will be looking, I think, like players like Alan Naughton and even more players like these to, I suppose, and even players who've been there for 4 or 5 years now on the Galway panel to, I suppose, have a breakout year and push on, because it is a year where we need 4 or 5 players who've been there on the fringes, or new players to come in now and really add to this.
We've a serious panel, Paul. Like we're probably blessed in more depth than a lot of other counties around, especially in Connacht. There's a total rebuild being done in Mayo, and they're only ever one game away from actually trying to lynch. You know what I mean? The managers. That's how they are, especially the homemade managers. They are the darlings, and we've seen that with Max Day. Like, I mean, they won't be like they could that could all change straight away in the league. But for Galway is we need another 6 to 8 players, which would be when I'm talking about a panel where you're talking is the interaction, no difference. We take a player off, we bring another one on, which doesn't weaken the team or experience. We push on. That's what we have. We do have those players. They just need now to be get the backing, the chance. And now this is easy for me to say because I seen the other side there is you do always want to back the experience and the players that have been there and the guys that don't go well. We've seen a few players there. I won't mention names that went well, had a bad game. We haven't seen since where we've seen more experienced players had bad games, giving another opportunity. So it's this where the management come in, and this is where they earn their crust is they need to bring these players, these development players, underage players through, and for the future, the next 2, 3 years time, that Galway again are in competition and getting to All Ireland semi-finals
I'm gonna put you on the spot, Sean, here before
again.
we finish. But who were your 4 or 5 breakout stars this year on the Galway senior football panel that you feel can make an impact who weren't there last year?
When you say that hasn't got a chance, or like,
That hasn't been regularly in the starting 15.
well, one I would say Liam O'Connell. I've
Yeah.
seen him there now. He's been plagued with a bit of injury. We saw him in the Connacht final scoring a great score, and we didn't see him again. Um, you're talking then, oh Jesus, what I call it from Tuam McCluskey. I'd love to see him. You know that kind of way.
McGlinchey, Shane
McGlinchey,
McGlinchey,
sorry,
yeah.
McGlinchey. Love to see him again. He's only 20. You know what I mean like that. But again, so much talent there. Love to see him get a proper chance. Oh, you put me on the spot now because I'd probably miss out on 5 or 6 players. Um, again, it's hard, but they're two guys I'd love to see. What's the name from Dunmore as well?
Shane McGrath,
No, the other guy, the
Colin Costello.
Costello. Another, sorry, excuse me, no, my apologies, Colin. Love to see that guy again. Class footballer, star underage. Again, pops in. And you mentioned there as well from Barn as well, the likes of these guys, what do you call it? O'Connor, these guys. Give them an opportunity, you know, back them. Back them. You know what I mean? They are going to do mistakes. We're all human. I made mistakes. Porrick made mistakes himself. Jan made mistakes. Sabo made mistakes. But Jono backed them and kept going back at them, and that's what it's all I've done about. Like, and back these guys, give them the opportunity, these young lads, give them the opportunity that the confidence will grow, and that's what we need to do.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be interesting to see can many of those lads now break on to the starting 15 for Galway this year.
But
Um
one thing about it, Paul, I have to say this: it's easy for me to name out names here, and for your listeners and watchers on this, it's a serious. I don't think a lot of these people know, and it's such a commitment to play county football. And I can honestly tell you, you have no life. You're always in the limelight of the public regarding if you go out to a pub and you're sitting down and there's a pint of Guinness beside you and it might be yours. You're on Facebook and social media. He's out drinking. You can't even go into Supermax to have a burger because you're not following the S&C. You're not training hard. You can't go out with your partner or girlfriend because
did
that's
did you
not seen as
ever
things.
did you ever have any interactions like that when you were an intercounty footballer?
I had
Maybe
a
being
few,
in
but we were
pubs?
lucky. We weren't in the social media. Like as
Yeah,
I said to you before, if it wasn't in the Connacht Tribune the Thursday before, we were
yeah.
safe. But it's hard for them, and I understand. I see these young lads coming through. Their heart and soul is in to play for Galway, but I don't think they understand the huge commitment. And again, we're going to the scenario where if you have a 9 to 5 job and unless you're around the area of Lough George, you don't have a chance playing county football. And we've had this conversation and again. We won't bring up the thing about the over the bridge and all that stuff, but it's such a huge commitment. And anyone that's in there at the moment, they have my ultimate respect because it's such a tough life. And at the end of the day, only one team can win the All Ireland. And we're looking at some great players over the years, and Damo, and as I say, Shane Watts, these guys, and you know what I mean, giving their heart and soul. And we're so quick at finding fault when they have a bad day, like every other supporter and still without that famous Celtic cross, and which they deserve at this stage. And coming, as I say, as your career comes in, so anyone that's there, it's a huge commitment, and they deserve it. They deserve the respect which they don't really get.
Can you talk there about some interactions, maybe of, I suppose, if you're maybe going to the pub or going for a supermarket or anything, is there any strange interaction that maybe you had with a supporter that jumps out during your inter-county career?
One which was kind of funny for me, it was actually, you'll have to wait for the book for these ones, like, it was one funny one actually. It was, I think it was before the kind of final in '98, and no, again it was around '98, and a good friend and a legend, as you would know yourself, Thomas Mannion, and he'll tell you the story himself. I was getting strange looks at him. He was kind of giving me strange looks, and I was going, "What's wrong with this story?" And he was looking at me. He said to me, "Are you all right, Sean?" And I was kind of saying, "Yeah, what'll be wrong with me?" And he goes, "Oh no, you're all right at this and it." But long story short, I went up to him, and he kind of said the comment. But long story, where I'm coming from, without going too much details, someone had been to hospital who had the same name and surname as myself and went to a family member and said that I was actually in hospital with a condition in hospital, kind of a mental condition in hospital, and he didn't understand how I was actually out training the next morning. There you go now. So it's a longer story than that, but I'll keep it to a minimum for you.
Yeah.
But that's one like of stuff like that, like,
Yeah, yeah. Very good. Good stuff. So that's all we do have time for on today's podcast. Thanks to Sean for coming on to this week's podcast.
You're very welcome.